Hi everyone, my name is Wendy. I'm with GoGo Kid and I want to just take a few minutes to introduce you to my workshop on project and assessment classes. Let's get started. So in my workshop, we will go through how to teach the project classes and the assessment classes. We will go through administering an assessment, some tips and tricks on how to administer the assisted project lesson, and also discuss the educational theory behind project-based learning. So let's take a few minutes to just preview what would be covered in the full workshop. First and foremost, when you're administering a core assessment, I advise you to just be extra prepared. It's generally a different format, so you want to make sure that you review the slides and teacher tips carefully. The order that things are clicked on the slides will sometimes reveal answers to the questions that you're trying to assess from the students. So you want to make sure that you are clicking very carefully, previewing all the slides, paying attention to how many slides, how many questions are there. And remember that assessments are in lessons 5 and 11 of every unit, only in levels 1 through 4. The kindergarten levels do not have projects. There are assessments then in lessons 6 and 12. You want to make sure that you plan to spend probably about 20 minutes on the assessment for levels 1 through 4. You want to leave about 5 minutes at the end to be able to discuss the upcoming project, which we'll discuss in a minute. For a kindergarten lesson, you can spend the entire 25 minutes on the assessment, but be prepared. There's oftentimes not as many slides, so you can prepare to extend with rewards and activities if your student is doing very well. Remember to give your student a reasonable amount of time to answer before you go ahead and help or teach. And take notes on each slide. I just use a sticky note and keep a numbered list, mark 0, 1, or 2 for your feedback later. You want to be able to make sure that you are able to provide detailed feedback, especially if the student was struggling. In my full workshop, I will take you through an example evaluation and extension, and also show you a preview of it, what a student evaluation looks like. You can see here in this image that it does give you small little screenshots of every slide, so that when you're doing that feedback, it helps you jog your memory, because you can't do the feedback as you go through the lesson on the assessment. So you want to make sure that when you're introducing the project post-assessment, so you're going to take about 5 minutes at the end to introduce your upcoming project lesson. The assisted project will be introduced after the assessment, and the project is not going to be done today. So it's not done in the same class period as the assessment was done. You want to make sure that you leave about 5 minutes. Usually you won't need 10 minutes. About 5 minutes to introduce the project for the next lesson. Discuss and possibly show the supplies that would be needed, and explain what's needed in your parent feedback. That's very important, especially for those younger students. So some tips and tricks as you are going through your assisted project. Reminder that the projects are done in levels 1 through 4, and the projects are on lessons 6 and 12 for those levels. Remember, there's no projects in the kindergarten level, and the projects will be completed together. The project should not be done ahead of time. If your child does come with the project totally completed, then you can use that opportunity for some awesome free talk, discuss your lesson or discuss the project. You can go ahead and make your project and just kind of talk your way through it, ask some questions, and engage them as much as possible. The goal for these lessons are just to keep the student talking as much as possible and engage that great opportunity for some free talk. You want to make sure that you preview the project materials and that you should bring what the student is required to have as well. So another, if the student shows up with their project totally completed, you will have all of those same supplies, and you can go ahead and work your way through the project and use that as a conversational tool as you're working. But if the child doesn't come with their project done, you will have what they have, and you can model and can create the project as you go through the lesson right there with your student. Typically what you'll need is colored pencils, glue, scissors, and paper, but there are some special supplies for some certain projects that you will need to be prepared with. So I just want to take a few minutes to preview all 4 levels and just the first few projects in each level. If you come to the full workshop, I will take you through just a brief little description of every single project for all 4 levels. So come and I'll show you some more. So right now let's talk about level 1. In level 1, you'll see Unit 1. Lesson 6 will be a mind map, and Lesson 12 is a project called A Book About Me. Unit 2, you will make a family tree and design your house. And in Unit 3, you will create in Lesson 6 a project called I Spy with My Little Eye. And in Lesson 12, you have a project called Let's Make a Puzzle. In Level 2, Lesson 6, you will have a snowman doll and Dress Up Sally. In Unit 2, you will have Let's Make a Class Schedule and Make a Calendar. And in Unit 3, one called a paper doll and one called a body parts cube. For this one is one of those special supplies project. You want to have 2 body part cube templates. So make sure that you preview that lesson and have that maybe pre-cut out or at least measured out so that you're ready to go. And in Level 3, Unit 1, you will see one called Make a Family Tree. It's more of an advanced project where you'll see some of those extended family members that you don't cover in that earlier level. Lesson 12 is Draw a Tree House. Unit 2, Lesson 6 is Make a Plane, and Lesson 12 is Let's Make a Book. And in Unit 3, Lesson 6 is called Make an Earth, and so you'll need green and blue paint, a paper plate, some cardstock. So make sure that you preview that lesson if you see it on your schedule. And Lesson 12 is one called Draw a River. And just a handful of the projects for Level 4. In Unit 1, you will see that Skittles experiment you may have heard some buzz about. You want to bring a pack of Skittles, a white plate, and they call for cold water. I've heard that this project seems to go pretty quickly, so you could even bring warm water and use and do the experiment in both warm and cold water. Just a little pro tip that I've heard out there in Facebook land. And Level 12 is another mind map. Unit 2, you will see one called Make a Plant Craft. They recommend that you bring a variety of leaves, especially maple leaves. You may have to get a little creative depending on the time of year there. And in Lesson 12, Make a Cloth Craft. You'll bring scraps of cloth, glue, a black pen for that project. Unit 3, you will complete a project called Let's Reuse, about that recycling unit. You'll need an old shirt, some needles, and thread for that project. And in Lesson 12, Let's Make a Volcano. Again, this is just the first 3 units for all 4 levels. There are plenty more projects than this, so please come and be prepared for any project that you may see. If you come to my workshop, I'll take you through all of that. All right, let's talk for a minute about project-based learning. Why are we doing these projects? It's very simple, it's very important. Let's take it back to our college days, those of you that have an educational background. Remember what we learned about the constructivist approach with Piaget and Vygotsky. Basically what they taught us was that hands-on, project-driven learning, if the child is doing, they learn better. So it's very important that they are able to have opportunities to find solutions to some problems. These projects can be question focused. And it's important to offer independent projects, maybe even some research for those older students, collaboration on ideas. Again, that free talk is so important. Keep the conversation going, collaborate on the ideas, and at the end of these project lessons, the child is going to be required to give you a short presentation. And that all goes along with project-based learning as well. Presentation skills are so important. How to utilize project-based learning? Just a few tips. Ask open-ended questions rather than simply yes or no. Try to incorporate some questions that involve skills such as compare and contrast, prediction. Keep the conversation going as best you can, especially for those upper level students. If you have any other questions about your projects or your assessment classes that are coming up, please feel free to get in touch with me. Here's a few of my social connections. You can basically find me on most social media outlets somewhere, but I hope that I see you in one of my full workshops that are coming up. There's one in January, February, and March. I'm Wendy, OS. I will see you soon. Thanks. Bye.